Rugby World Cup bosses, teams and fans are keeping their eyes on a powerful typhoon forming to the south of Japan, which could bring fierce winds and torrential rain over the weekend. Japan's Meteorological Agency says that Typhoon Hagibis is expected to reach the highest level of violent. That doesn't sound too good. The JMA says it could be the strongest to hit Japan this year, predicted to hit the southern island of Kyushu on Saturday. We're joined now live by rugby reporter Joe Porter, who's in Tokyo. Hey Joe, how disrupted could this typhoon be?
Well, it's set to hit the southern island of Kyushu on Saturday, and it could be very disruptive. There are two games down there this weekend. Quite crucial one is first Island against Samoa and Fukuoka on Saturday. The Irish need a bonus point win to guarantee their place in the quarterfinals. So if that game gets called off, the Irish might not even make it through to the knockout stages. So it's potentially very, very disruptive. The other game down on that island is Wales against Uruguay and Kumamoto on Sunday. That game is not so important because Wales are already guaranteed to go through to the last eight. If any games are cancelled, they become scoreless draws and the teams get 2 points each. So the Irish are desperate for that not to happen. World Rugby do have a contingency plan. They can potentially push the Saturday games to the Sunday or even move the games to other venues. But they've been very vague about what might happen, and it doesn't seem like there's a really consistent or, I guess, set-in-stone plan as to what they might do. There are some locals here in Tokyo that believe the typhoon could actually affect all four games this weekend, which includes the All Blacks and Italy up the island, or up on the Northern Island rather, in Nagoya. So, yeah, potential for massive disruption. Obviously, the JMA are calling it a violent super typhoon, so if it carries on in its current trajectory, it could be a real problem.
So how long do they leave it before they make a call on whether the games go ahead or not?
Pretty much on game day. They can't really do anything other than that. They really hope, and they'll be really desperate that nothing eventuates or that it peters out or takes another direction. They'd have to do it obviously no later than the day of the game. So a call would have to be made in the morning, but they can leave it that late.
So what are the All Blacks saying about the potential disruption?
Well, they're just playing it like they always do with weather reports and saying that, look, they're prepared for it. They're getting constant updates from the Japan Meteorological Service and World Rugby, and they just hope that if there are disruptions, that essentially the World Rugby stick to what the rules they've got, because, of course, they are playing Italy in their final pool game in Nagoya. Now, if the All Blacks game was to be washed out or rained out by this typhoon, they would get 2 points for a scoreless draw. That would put them guaranteed at top spot on 16 points. South Africa play Canada tonight. Maximum point win for them there only gives them 15 points. So if the All Blacks game does get washed out by this typhoon, they will still qualify top of their group. So that's a bonus for them. However, if they don't get a game, that means there'll be almost 2 weeks between their last game against Namibia and the quarterfinal against whoever that may be. And that's something the All Blacks would rather avoid. 2 weeks between games is not a good situation for them. It would leave them rather underdone heading into the knockout stage.
Interesting. Hey, let's also go back to talking about Ardie Savea's goggles, because people will have noticed that he didn't wear them in the game against Namibia. Have we found out what happened there?
Yeah, essentially, look, he's just basically said that the conditions over here, he's trialling them. He's still wearing them during trainings, but the conditions in Japan being so hot and so humid at the moment are almost the worst possible conditions to try and use them. And they've been fogging up, basically, is what it comes down to. The goggles have been fogging up and affecting his vision on the field. He obviously has been sweating a lot in these really humid conditions, and sweat has been getting inside the goggles and getting into his eyes, which is obviously not good either. So basically, it's just been that they have been fogging up and sweat has been coming into the goggles, and they're just currently not working. So he's still trialling them during training. Him and the All Blacks doctor are trying to figure out ways to stop them from fogging up and to stop the sweat getting into his eyes. And he will continue to try and use them during games. It's not the last we've seen of them at this World Cup. However, if they do fog up or they do get sweat in his eyes, he'll just take them off every single game. So, yeah, he may use them again or he may not. It will really come down to how he's feeling on the day.
Thanks, Joe. Joe Porter there from Tokyo, who's on Typhoon Watch, and we'll keep across all those developments.